In the early 90s, John Veazey was a man with an unusual occupation. He killed people. Veazey was a hitman in the Philadelphia Mafia and found himself smack in the middle of the bloodiest mob war in the city's history. As is often the case with hitmen, Veazey's career was a short one. When he learned his own crew might want to kill him, he became a government witness, a rat. His testimony helped send 24 wise guys to prison, some for the rest of their lives. And the Philly mob would never be the same. Today, the one-time killer is a free man, living under an assumed name somewhere in America. We've agreed not to divulge exactly where. He's married, has a good job, and says he's found God. But back in his old South Philadelphia neighborhood, not everyone believes John Veazey's story of redemption. They say he's still the same low-life thug he was 20 years ago, when the mob made him an offer he couldn't refuse. In 1993, you were an ex-con, a laborer, and a guy walks up to you and offers you $10,000 to do what?
Kill a guy.
Were you interested?
I just said, yeah, where's the gun?
That casual?
Yeah. He said, take some time to think about it. I said, just take some time to get me the gun and let's get it done.
That's how it was for John Veazey, one bad choice after another. He grew up in the mostly Italian neighborhood of South Philadelphia, home to the city's underworld. He was the youngest of 5. His mother sold crystal meth out of her family's bakery. By his mid-teens, John was a junkie and the father of 2. By his late 20s, he had been arrested more than 60 times. He says he never aspired to join the mob, but the promise of a big payday got his attention.
I mean, you got $10,000 and you never have no money.
They were offering money to take somebody's life.
But my question to that is real simple. How many poor people are being offered $10,000 to kill somebody?
But that's not an economic issue. That's a moral issue.
It's moral if you have morals.
You had no morals.
Correct. None.
In the early 90s, the Philadelphia mob was at war. Blood and body bags routine. On one side was a group of older, Sicilian-born wise guys led by John Stanfa. On the other, younger American mobsters headed by Joey Merlino. For 30 years, George Anastasia covered the mob for the Philadelphia Inquirer. He says a young, streetwise thug like Veazey was the kind of muscle John Stanfa needed.
Stanfa was getting an enforcer. Stanfa was getting a guy who wasn't afraid to go out there and bust heads. He was getting a guy who would go out and collect money, who would go out and intimidate people, and who would go out and kill people if he was ordered to do so.
John Veazey's first hit was in broad daylight. The targets? Rival mob boss Joey Merlino and his top lieutenant Michael Ciancaglini. Veazey and a partner drove up on the pair, hit the brakes, and opened fire. Was your heart racing as you were coming down the street?
Well, I didn't really think like that. I was going to work, and part of my work that day was to kill somebody.
Joey Merlino survived the attack, but Michael Ciancaglini was killed. One name off the boss's hit list. How many names on the list?
25, 35, maybe.
If you see one of the guys on this list on the street, you take him out.
Yeah.
1 month later, Veazey struck again.
The victim, identified as Frank Baldino, was getting into his white Cadillac after having dinner at the popular Melrose Diner in South Philadelphia. Bullet casings all over.
Frank Baldino was a bartender who just about everyone in the neighborhood knew and liked, including John Veazey. But John Stanfa thought Baldino had become too friendly with the other side and wanted him dead.
Put my gun right through the window.
And this was a guy you liked?
Yeah.
If you shoot someone in the head 6 times who you like, what would you do to someone you didn't like?
I shot him 6 times in the head because I was supposed to kill him. I wanted to make sure he was dead.
But amid all the carnage, the hitman says he was volunteering as a Boy Scout leader. Now there's a positive role model for Boy Scouts. A hitman.
I'll tell you what, the kids didn't know I was a hitman. A lot of parents were mad, but the kids had fun when I took them camping, I can tell you that.
John, do you get how crazy that sounds?
I can tell you I do, but I never really thought about it like that. I mean, I would drive by and I'd have the kids in my station wagon, and then at nighttime I might be in a Cadillac.
Hunting for people you're supposed to kill.
Yeah.
Veazey's star was rising. He was summoned to this Philadelphia hotel to become a main member of the mob. But the sacred ceremony was the last thing on his mind. He wanted the $10,000 he'd been promised for his first hit.
I wanted the money. I never got the money.
Why didn't John Stanfa pay you?
He said they were saving money for the war, and I said, what are we buying, a Sherman tank? I mean, I'm bringing all this money's coming, 100,000, 50,000. Nobody's getting paid.
Those complaints did not sit well with Stanfa. A few months later, the mob boss ordered another hit, this time on Veazey. But John had an older brother, Billy, with friends in the mob. When Billy learned John might be in trouble, he pleaded with him to turn himself in, to become a government informant, a rat.
Why do it?
I don't know. I guess it was the right thing to do.
When Billy was talking to you, what was he telling you?
He told me it was the only opportunity, the only way he didn't want to watch me get executed.
Billy Veazey drove John to the U.S. Attorney's Office. FBI agent Paul Hayes, now retired, became John's government handler.
Billy understood the mob. That's why he wanted him to come in and cooperate, because he knew how the mob could turn on you and kill you in a moment. And in fact, I think he was right.
Veazey agreed to wear a wire and collect evidence, but he wasn't wearing it on the night he went to this South Philadelphia apartment with two trusted mob associates. Inside, everything was covered in plastic.
It's not normal to walk in a room with plastic. But I did. I never thought anything.
What did you think was about to happen?
They told me they were painting.
He was shot 4 times with a small caliber pistol, 3 times in the head, once in the chest.
The guy shoots you in the back of the head. They are 2 men, 2 to 1. How did you manage to get out?
You fight. You do what you grew up doing.
He wrestled a knife from one attacker, stabbed him, and ran from the building. The legend of John Veazey was born.
This is a guy who can't be killed now. You can't bring him down. And it enhances that whole reputation as a tough guy. John Veazey should have been dead that night, and he wasn't.
How do you explain that?
Poor equipment. They should have had a better gun, a bigger gun. I don't know. Maybe it's destiny. Maybe this is supposed to happen.
John Stanfa and 23 members of his crew were indicted on charges including murder and racketeering. Veazey's appearance at their trial as a government witness was eagerly anticipated. But on the morning he was to testify, he was approached by FBI agent Paul Hayes.
And I said, John, I have something to tell you. Your brother was murdered in a hit. And John crumbled to the floor.
Billy had been ambushed in his car not far from his home. 5 days later, John took the stand, giving jurors an unvarnished account of life in the mob.
He was a highly effective witness. Very good. One of the best I've ever seen.
What was so good about him?
Well, because he was genuine. This is what we did. I shot this guy, and that guy over there told me to do it.
The defense tried to diminish his testimony. They said, John, we see that you're wearing glasses. Did the government buy you those glasses? And he said, yes, they did. And they said, did the government buy you those glasses to make you more believable and credible in front of this jury? He says, I don't know, but ever since your client shot me in the back of the head, my vision's been slightly off.
All the defendants were found guilty. John Stanfa was sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms. Veazey, as part of his plea agreement, was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Plenty of time for dark thoughts of revenge.
You wanted to kill the people who killed your brother.
Them, family, it didn't really matter.
Were you going to shoot him? Were you going to...
Well, I had plans to, inject their wives with AIDS.
What?
Yeah. I was going to bump into with a shopping cart, have a little needle. They wouldn't even feel it.
That's just evil.
It is evil, but you know what? I was pretty evil. And I ain't going to try to say I wasn't.
This is John Veazey today. Just another suburban homeowner trying to stay ahead of the yard work.
I have a great wife, a great family, nice home, good job.
Veazey shares his new life with Norma, his wife of 8 years. They married after John's brief stint in the Witness Protection Program.
Can you even fathom the person that he was? Or the things he used to do?
No. No, because I don't know that person. I know my husband, I know who he is, and who I fell in love with. The caring individual, that's who I know.
But John didn't rob ice cream trucks. I mean, he did some bad things.
But if God is willing to forgive, why wouldn't we? I mean, he's human.
As an ex-con, finding work was difficult. But with his wife's encouragement, Veazey talked his way into a job selling cars. Turns out, he was a natural. He's earned Salesman of the Year awards and a 6-figure salary.
Do you tell customers about your past now?
Yeah.
You do?
Ask.
What might they
Some
ask?
people will be like, man, you're like one of them mob guys, you know what I mean? I'm like, believe it or not, I am. You know,
Really?
but I've changed. I've autographed books for some of my customers I asked for.
The book, The Hitman, written by two Philadelphia journalists, details Veazey's criminal past and efforts to turn his life around. Search for peace. And on most Sundays, you'll find John Veazey here, a church near his home.
I'm not over there yet, but I got baptized. I'm working on with my pastor. I've been going every week now. I actually drive the bus for him.
You are a church bus driver?
Yeah. Good morning. How you doing, young lady?
Good, how are you?
All right. Like I always say now, I'm not who I want to be. I'm not who I'm going to be, but I'm definitely not the person I used to be.
I don't believe it.
You're not buying that car?
I'm not buying it.
Reporter George Anastasia isn't alone in his skepticism. Many in South Philadelphia don't believe Veazey is capable of changing.
He's found God because it's expedient to find God, because he's somewhere in middle America and it works to find God there. I don't think if he's back on a street corner in South Philly, he's found God. He's looking to avenge what happened to his brother. He's looking to settle scores.
His brother's murder almost 20 years ago has remained an obsession. We learned that on visits to Philadelphia, Veazey has made threats against those he thinks were responsible. Kathy Ciancaglini says she's been a target for years.
It's frightening, it's aggravating, it's intimidating.
Why would John Veazey threaten you?
He believes that my husband has killed his brother.
Her husband, John Ciancaglini, and others were tried in 2001 for the murder of Billy Veazey and found not guilty. But John Veazey maintains Ciancaglini did murder Billy as payback for his first hit when he killed Ciancaglini's brother, Michael. Kathy says Veazey has posted menacing pictures on Facebook and left her voicemails that she saved.
He threatens me. Calls my husband a punk. He's the punk. He threatens women. That's what he does.
John Veazey lives under an alias, and few in his new community are aware of his past. But over the last 5 years, his name has appeared in at least 4 police reports. In 2008, an argument in a restaurant led to a fight.
I waited for him to take his drink, and I sized him up and I hit him with a straight, good punch, and the glass went through his face.
Veazey was arrested and pleaded guilty to misdemeanor battery. His victim required 25 stitches and plastic surgery.
The only reason it's big for me because I'm a killer. You think about how many of your friends had a barroom fight growing up.
I gotta tell you, in talking to you, sometimes I wonder if you're still just a tough guy or if you're still part of you a bad guy.
That's something you'll have to wonder, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I would say that that's open for debate.